Hello, mic check, ready to go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to After GMS on this bright, sunny, and hot Tuesday, July 19th. I'm Tracy McCain here with Ed Matthews. We have Christian Morgan, Sydney Moore, and all of you. Thanks so much for joining us.
90s all the way across the board.
Yeah.
All the way. Not even a hit of 70 or 80 in there.
Definitely not.
Oh, that would be a dream.
That's a stretch.
That is a
overnight
stretch.
temperature, right?
Come back to when we get to, like October. Yeah, it's hot. There's really no relief from it. We really are in the dog days of summer. I'm back from vacation today, first day back, and I called Ed yesterday. And I said, hey, I'm just catching up, coming back. I said, I thought by the time I got back, the weather pattern would be different. But it's not. It's the exact same as it was when I left. So it's good to see that everything is status quo. Yes, we are headed for another 90-degree day today. 19 days so far at 90 degrees or above if you're keeping track. A little bookkeeping here. We average about 37 of those every single year. So we still have plenty of time to add on more heat and more humidity in the way of 90-degree days. And I think we will do just that over the next few days. Also, interesting to note here, a lot of questions now about when it's going to get a little cooler. And while there really isn't any immediate relief from the heat, our average high temperature right now is 89 degrees, and that's as high as it gets for us here in the Piedmont. So over the course of the next month, even though it is gradual, we start to see that average high temperature come down into the mid-80s by the time we get into the end of August. So 80-degree days are a little more common than the 90-degree days that we're having right now and that we've had recently. So keep that in mind. It's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. 70 out the door right now in Greensboro, 71 Winston-Salem, 73 in Lexington, 71 in Lexington, I should say, and 73 in Asheboro. We have upper 70s, already 80s this morning along the coast, and it's already in the mid-80s out in Dallas, Texas this morning, where they are headed for some more relentless heat. Afternoon high temperature is going to reach to around 110 degrees there this afternoon. Yeah, hot. Cold front on the way. It's going to try to get into the Piedmont today, but it never really is able to do that. It kind of fizzles out and falls apart before it does. So we really have no focal point or no trigger for showers or storms today other than our heat and humidity. So I think most of us will stay dry. There is just likely going to be a few pop-up showers and storms on the radar this afternoon. But again, more misses than hits. Better chance for the week for us is going to come on Thursday with that cold front that swings through the Piedmont for your Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening. So we're going to warm up fast today. Upper 80s closing in on that 90-degree mark with a few of those hit or miss storms. Tonight we'll fall back to around 70 here in the Piedmont, likely some low 70s in some of those typically warmer spots, and mid and upper 60s in the foothills heading into your Wednesday morning. Of course, take a look at this. Feels like temperatures today in the low 90s, but by tomorrow we'll start to climb up into the mid 90s, even feeling like 100 degrees as we go into the end of the week and into the weekend. And remember, I mentioned that cold front on Thursday, but make no mistake about it. This cold front will not cool us off. It does not bring any cold weather. It's really just a official name for that front, because in fact, behind that front, we're going to even get a little hotter. Talking about mid-90s for Saturday and Sunday. Looking to stay mainly dry though for your Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll have another rain chance with another system on the way by Monday, early next week. But it's all 90s for you and me and everybody else here.
You get a 90. You get a 90.
All right.
You get a 90
Everybody.
too,
$90,000.
Let's not be mistaken.
Oh, you're talking about temperatures. Well, if you think it's hot here, Sydney, you're going to want to stay in the U.S. because people in Europe are dealing with something that's on a whole new level, right? So millions of people over there are sweltering through what they're calling a heat apocalypse. It's a heat wave here, but there it's apparently called a heat apocalypse. So it's already sparked wildfires, caused thousands of deaths, sent temperatures soaring 30 degrees above normal or higher. So let's talk about this because we don't normally see this type of weather. Definitely not here, but in Europe.
No, we don't. Typically, Ed and I were talking about this. The average high temperature there right now is around, 70?
It's 75. I looked it up for
degrees.
London,
Yeah.
and the normal high right now is 75.
And so the temperatures right now are 30 degrees higher, so it's 105 right now?
Yeah, it's about 5 minutes to 1 in the afternoon in London, and the temperature is at 100 now. And I got a text into a couple of friends that I have that live in Southwest London. They have it's lunch hour.
Right.
You don't bother the Europeans during their holiday or their lunch hour. So I'm sure they'll text me back later, but certainly very hot, and that goes with the 30 degrees above normal. Yeah. They rarely get out of the low and mid 70s during the whole summer season.
Wow.
They're farther north, in latitude than we are here, in North Carolina for sure.
Wow.
And a lot of those places don't even have air conditioning.
They do not. That's a good point. They do not. No AC.
Wow.
And it's 100 degrees.
Wow.
I thought that was bad in Boone in my old dorm at Appalachian State. We didn't have AC when it was, 85 degrees. But you really think about that, like relentless heat for several days, of 100 degrees plus. You don't have air conditioning.
Oh, that's
insane.
brutal.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
And we get a lot of 90, 95, 96 degree days.
Sure.
So our body kind of becomes acclimated to it. But the Europeans, that's not the case. It's very rare that they have a real heat wave like they're having right now.
So that's why they're calling it a apocalypse, because it's that
Apocalypse.
rare. Although, I thought that word was a little extreme.
Yeah.
But now that I'm hearing,
Well, the Europeans are kind of creative with their language.
Okay, I'm like, apocalypse? I'm like, wow, that's
Makes
a
it
lot.
sound really bad, and it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I mean, you're having fatalities in parts of Europe because of the intense heat. It's amazing and rather sad, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't realize that air conditioning was something that was not standard in Europe, just because I just assumed it was. But now that I think about it, going to Alaska, there's no air conditioning there. You save thousands of dollars on cars if you're buying in Alaska, because they don't have AC, and they also don't need four-wheel drive because of snow, and it's just different climate, so different car.
Yeah.
But then you bring that here, and you are you know what I'm going to say, you are just miserable.
Yeah. They're so far.
Trying to find the nice way of saying
I got what you were going for. They're so far north. Typically it's not hot there. But what we have kind of a setup here is what you call a cutoff low. A lot of times when we get a cutoff low here in the southeast, it means rain for several days, right? It kind of gets stuck there across the plain states and in the mid-south, and we just continually get rain and we get clouds from that. Kind of the opposite here, just because of where that area of low pressure is positioned. It's basically just shooting all of the warm air. We can kind of go into the weeds here, but areas around a low pressure system spin counterclockwise. And just to where their position is to that low, you're getting all of that wind wrapping around that low, and it's just soaring and sending all of that heat up into Europe. So it's just kind of relentless.
And it's at least I can speak for the UK. That's a maritime air mass, so they're dealing with humidity just like we are here in the east and the southeastern part of the U.S.
Do you know how long they're expected to have that kind of weather out there?
I don't know when it's going to end. They actually cool off at night. Their forecast tonight is for some showers in upper 60s in London.
Yeah.
So it cools off at night, but during the day, boy, 30 degrees above normal. That's really, really incredible.
Yeah.
For days and days and days.
days.
Okay, so that's some perspective for you. And LeVar added some perspective too, because he lived in Alaska. I mentioned that, because it's a different climate than we experience here. He said it was 90 degrees, and they didn't have AC, and they had to call a state of emergency.
Wow.
I'm sure that's what's happening in Europe too, especially when there's no end in sight. So great perspective. We will be praying for those in Europe. We will be certainly praying for ourselves here, because it's definitely hot in the Triad too, but we have some things that can help it ease it, right? All right, let's get to our morning headlines before our next conversation here, which we want all of you to get in on. We will soon learn more about what's ahead for the former American Hebrew Academy site. Changes are coming. Even the sign out front is different. The facility will soon house hundreds of unaccompanied migrant children, fully funded and staffed by the federal government. Greensboro City Councilwoman Nancy Hoffman, who represents that area, told us the city and county will meet with health department reps today. They hope to learn more about the timeline and plans for the facility. Well, tonight, Greensboro City Council will consider whether to fund some decorative upgrades for the downtown area. Since the pandemic started, businesses spilled onto the sidewalks, restaurants put out tables, stores put out displays, and that trend has continued ever since. Well, here's a look at some of the areas that could get spruced up if this all goes through. These renderings are ideas at the moment. The city isn't sure exactly what upgrades they would have, but in all, it would cost about $142,000.
Early voting is underway for the municipal election next Tuesday. Today is the deadline to request an absentee ballot. Greensboro voters have some big questions to make. Mayor Nancy Vaughn is running for re-election against City Councilman Justin Outling. There are also 5 city bond projects on the ballot. Here's a breakdown: $70 million for Parks and Rec, $30 million for housing, $15 million for transportation, and $20 million for police and fire. Tomorrow, the 2 mayoral candidates will be in studio for a live conversation. We'll be asking all the questions you want to know ahead of Election Day. That will start at 5:30 p.m.
Well, there is now a much simpler and faster way that you can reach out for help if you are experiencing a mental health emergency. You can call or text 988 to get connected with a mental health professional.
But there is a Greensboro nonprofit that's working to reach folks before they reach that crisis stage. All right, Denise McMiller has more on how they're bringing awareness to mental wellness.
Well, to give insight into how common mental illness is, I want to share this statistic with you. By the end of this year, 1 out of 5 people will be diagnosed with a mental illness, and 3 out of 4 of those people will never seek treatment. The Peace of Hope Foundation is getting out into the community to make sure people here in Greensboro don't suffer in silence. In their 13 years of providing crisis intervention services, they've found many mental health agencies in Guilford County are full, and there are challenges for those who don't have insurance or transportation to get the help they need. Peace of Hope is removing those barriers by providing services that can be passed on.
But we go into the home, we go into the schools. We also have a Voice of Hope program where that's our training program. So we're in local churches, we're in local shelters teaching about mental health, starting those conversations.
Part of their foundation goes beyond mental illness and moves into mental wellness and promotes being healthy beings. Their life skill classes and peer support groups are yielding those results.
Where we partnered with one of the local shelters and we did the case management for them, and 100% of the people that were in our program did not return to homelessness. And so it's amazing what support can do when people don't feel like they're by themselves.
And right now, Peace of Hope is running its first annual Eat Mental Health campaign. EAT is an acronym for Education, Awareness, and Treatment. And through this campaign, they hope to make therapy free for folks living in Guilford County. To learn more about the campaign and foundation, check our website.
It's been nearly 30 years since Richard Petty competed in NASCAR's premier series, but his legendary presence continues to leave fans in awe. Yesterday, people who went to get food at the HARDEE'S location in Harrisburg were greeted by Petty, draped in his signature cowboy hat and a HARDEE'S apron. Petty won 200 races and 7 championships in his NASCAR Cup Series career, which lasted from 1958 to 1992. So that brings us to our question: what are your celeb encounters?
First of all, let's just talk about Richard Petty for a second while you guys are typing your celebrity encounters in there. Because, I mean, he's very tall. Have you met Richard Petty in person?
I have.
I have, yeah. Very tall, very commanding presence, but also, I mean, you cannot miss the black hat. And it's signature, right?
Yeah.
But his genuine kindness is also part of his signature character, I would say. He's so kind, so welcoming. I mean, he's a
Very
Southerner
genuine.
through and through.
Yeah.
He wants to hug you. He wants to,
Wow.
pull you in close, really get to talk to you. So, I mean, I can only imagine how fans were reacting when they saw him at Hardee's, serving up burgers.
And you meet him one time and he always remembers you.
He does.
And,
Yeah, he does.
And I think this kind of thing here too is just, just a testament to what he's done after, his life in racing. Obviously his family is still in it, but he has been so big on giving back and on being charitable and just being a good steward, for the community and everywhere close by. So, just hats off to Richard Petty, just an incredible person.
I've never met him, and now I wish I had.
Oh,
He has a
you
Hang
super
around and
might.
try it
Yeah,
long enough,
exactly.
you will.
Yeah.
You'll meet him.
Yeah.
He's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let us know in the chat about your celebrity encounters. I'll start,
Okay.
because being in this business, you kind of run into lots of people
Yeah.
all the time. I have two that really stick out. One was Wanda Sykes. I'm like on a plane. Yeah.
Oh.
On a plane, and I happened to get bumped to first class with my husband because we were bumped from several flights, and so we were, whatever. And so we're like sitting, and we hear a woman on the phone, and I'm like, gosh, Jerron, she sounds like Wanda Sykes. Like, he's like, whatever. And I'm like, no, it really does. So I literally like a kid, go like this over the seat to see. And I was like, oh my God. And so we didn't bother her or anything like that. But after, when we were all standing up to get off, and I was just like, hi, how are you? And she's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, yep, it's you.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. That was
She has
pretty
a fun
cool.
personality. She
Yeah,
really does.
absolutely. And I was like, are you supposed to be on the phone? I didn't know at the time.
And you said you had another one.
Oh, yeah. So, yes. So now I just forgot his name. Steve Smith. Steve Smith from the Carolina Panthers.
okay.
Oh,
When he played.
nice.
Yes, when he played with the Carolina Panthers. He was in Greensboro at Ricky Prohl's place, Prolific Park, and I was working out there. A whole bunch of kids and people were in the gym, asking for his autograph and stuff like that, and I didn't know who he was. And so I just told him, I was like, put on your headphones. It usually works for me. And he's just like, oh yeah? I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. People don't bother me when I have my headphones on. And he's like, oh, okay. And then, after a little while, Ricky Prohl comes up. He's like, you know who that is, right? I'm like, no. And he's like, that's Steve Smith from the Panthers. I was like,
No way.
I was like, no, but listen to this. I was like Dudley High School, the Panthers, coach gets
my
worse.
gosh.
And he's like, no, the Carolina Panthers. I'm like, of North Carolina, Charlotte? He's like, yeah. And then he's just like, hey, Steve, come over. I want to introduce you to, Tracy. She's a news anchor here. And he's like, oh, hey, how are you? I was like, hi. I was like, so you work with Cam Newton? What a loser am I? And he's like, yep. Loser, get out of here. Right, exactly. And, of course, then ever since then, I became loyal Panthers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to
She
represent.
had to do something to make that up.
Oh, it was so bad. I went home and told my husband, who was then my fiance, and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. He's like, I can't talk to you for at least 7 days.
Oh, no.
Oh boy.
And what about you?
Well, how about President Bill Clinton?
Wow.
But let me clarify this. He was still governor of Arkansas. Over in Chapel Hill, he had spoke at the business school there at UNC Chapel Hill, and he was headed across the street to go to the Carolina Inn and have lunch. And there really wasn't any security around him.
Oh.
So students that were out there were kind of backing up, and Ed was moving forward. and I said, good afternoon, Governor. Welcome to North Carolina. I was being the diplomat, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, yeah, I'm headed over here to eat lunch. And I said, well, enjoy your stay and your visit in North Carolina. Now, with the remember the GGO, the Kmart
Yes.
GGO way back in the day at Forest Oaks? I had an opportunity to meet a lot of the stars on The Young and the Restless.
Oh!
Yeah, and I
my
tell you
mom
what,
would be so jealous of you.
everyone I have met from that show was just so plain, so cool, so warm and inviting. I have not met Victor Newman.
I have.
Although
did?
at one
Oh,
time
wow.
he was visiting Winston-Salem. and some people were able to meet him. So yeah, in this business, it is, you do have an edge on meeting some stars.
Yeah, I got to interview him.
Cool.
Along with Malcolm Jamal Warner when he was in town
Yeah.
for the National
that's
Black
neat.
Theater Festival. Yeah, but anyway, you know, the list is long. How about you, Sydney?
One that stuck out to me was, do you guys know the show Orange is the New Black on Netflix?
I haven't watched it
I
yet.
haven't watched it, but I know it.
Yeah, when I was interning at CNN, HLN, I had a chance to meet some of the cast members from Orange is the
cool.
New Black, and they were, oh my goodness, just so sweet. They took the time to actually come up to you, and we were just talking, having conversations, and at the time they were doing a segment interviewing them about the show during the time, but I just thought it was just so nice of them to just walk up on their own and just kind of talking. I'm just a little intern there, and, but they were just so sweet. It really stood out.
Right.
It made me like the show even more after being able to like speak to them in person.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
people are people, you know?
Right,
And most of the stars that I've met, and it sounds like the case with you guys, is that they're just good old people.
They're just good
Every
people.
once
They
in a
are.
while, you'll get one that's a little,
Yeah.
snobby, but you just say hello and goodbye.
Right.
But most everybody, just great down-to-earth people.
Yeah.
It's like you're describing Christian.
That's it. When I first met him, I was in awe.
I bet.
was
Think about the
like,
time I
"Jeez."
met Tracy and Ed Matthews.
You know, that's funny that you say that.
is
My
funny.
first day at work here back in August of 1988, I remember when Sandra Hughes and Lee Kynard walked into the newsroom in the afternoon. I was starstruck.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, Lee Kynard and Sandra Hughes.
Wow.
And of course, they went on to be my mentors
Right.
in this business, but I was starstruck. I had watched them on TV
Oh, look
for
at
years.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. Christian Morgan.
So actually, there's two here. When I was in college, I hosted our morning show on the college radio station, and it was always my goal to. Well, I've grown up here, and I'd always listen to two guys named Chris on Rock 92. So it was always my goal to have a show or do a show like that.
Nice.
So I actually talked to Chris Kelly and some of the guys over there, and I don't know what's happening above our heads. Sorry if you can hear that. But I'd always talk to them about how they did the show and kind of how they structured it. So I put our morning show together at the college radio station, and it was always my goal to make it larger than life. And I was always thinking about who big name people could I somehow get on the show. And so at that time, Duck Dynasty was really, really popular on A&E. The Buck Commander family down in Louisiana, they had all the hunting stuff, and they had the TV shows and all that. And so I was like, whatever. So I called them one day, and like a fool, thinking I could call and actually get through to talk to these people. But I got put on this. I got somehow weaseled my way through the phoner system and was put on hold for probably an hour. Just waiting and waiting and waiting, and eventually I got a voicemail. But I left a voicemail with them, told them who I was, and they called me back. And so I interviewed them on the show, the whole family, that day, and thought it was great, just down to earth, good old
awesome.
people.
That's
And
awesome.
then after that, they kept up with me after the show, and so now I get a Christmas card from them.
Oh, wow.
Every every
Oh,
other
wow.
year.
That's
And so
awesome.
like hey, hope you're doing well. Let us know what's going on with you. Come down and see us, stay with us.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. I met them that way. So that was neat. But then also most recently was Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel. Everybody always says, when Jim comes to town, things are bad. So through another weather group that I'm a part of, the Carolina Weather Group, we've done some interviews with Jim and some different folks, and I met him down in Myrtle Beach at a hurricane convention thing that we did, and just down to earth, remembered me, knew who I was, asked how I was doing, and that was always cool to me because you grow up watching these people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, so
It's different.
I'm going to read some comments here, then we have to wrap it up because if you don't hear it, the noises now, you probably will in the next few seconds. We have some construction going on our roof, and I'm nervous. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, my
but,
goodness, yeah.
Belinda said, I met Richard Roundtree in Greensboro at my father's 60th birthday. greeted Jagged Edge and Puffy Sean Combs in the Dallas airport years ago. She said met Carl Brown and his wife, Carla Lopez Brown, one of the founders of FUBU, at a recording studio in Greensboro. Belinda, I need to hang out with you. You're meeting all the people.
Yeah.
Brenda Taylor Jeffrey said, I met John Fogerty, Jagged Edge, Little
cool.
Kim,
Wow, you know a lot of
Nelly,
people.
and a bunch more. She was just hanging around with that
Look,
boy.
hello.
I'm telling you. Krista Hartman said Eric Montross, UNC basketball player, Sunset Theater in Asheboro is where she met him.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, that is really neat. And then we also had some people who mentioned that they met the Bush family, Barbara and George Bush, when I'm not sure if they were in office or not, but it was a little while ago. LeVar met Richard Petty, Rhonda Williams said Jerome Davis, Randolph Mantooth, and went to school with Kyle Petty. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Dana said she went to school with Richard Petty's grandsons, and her mom taught his oldest grandson, Adam. Great guy. So lots of Richard Petty fans. And now I can hear the roofers, so that means they're getting close.
That means the roof is getting thinner.
That means I gotta go. All right, let's take another look at our forecast here.
All right, 7-day forecast, hot, 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 getting hotter. 90 today, not much in the way of rain, only an isolated storm, and even smaller chance tomorrow, just hot and dry, low 90s. A little better chance on Thursday with the approach of a cold front that will have no impact on lowering the temperature. As a matter of fact, it's just going to get hotter. Friday, we're into the low 90s. Weekend will be the hottest part of the 7-day period, and when temperatures are likely going to make it into the mid-90s across the Piedmont.
It's going to be a lot of folks
Get
at
ready.
the pool today, probably, if they're not at
That's
work.
a great place to be. I love it.
You have to
All
get
through
in
the
the pool, though.
Yeah, you know, some people like me stand around and stare at the pool, but no excuse.
It's all good.
It's true.
Thanks so much for joining us on After GMS. Sorry we have to rush through this, but again, things are happening. We'll be right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Yeah.